first question is just about your guys' relationship as co-composers. What does it look like for you? What does the workflow look like? And how do you score something together as a team?
Yeah.
Well, you want to start us off, Alfie?
No, no, you can start it off.
All right. So given that Alfie and I came from kind of the same camp, so given we both worked for Lorne for a bunch of years, I think teaming up was an easy choice because we are familiar with the workflow. We are on a technical level, we're familiar with the software. We know how a session should look when we send each other music. And that makes all the difference because when you're working with someone for so long, there has to be a smooth workflow. It's not like you're working on something for a week. When you're passing pieces back and forth for a year, everything somehow matters because you might take one bar of music from one piece and one bar of music from another piece. And if those things can't communicate, then it takes longer. So from the very beginning, we had done this before years ago in LA, and it was kind of, like hopping back in, with an old friend really, because you just know how it should go. And at this level, you can't be wasting time doing this and doing that. You just need to know that a bar of music here will work with a bar of music there, and it needs to be legible. And it was quite smooth with identical computer setups as well for us to do this. So it was we put ourselves in a good situation
Yeah.
from the start.
And where we worked together in LA, the kind of remote control campus with under Lorne Balfe, it was a very, very productive, fast-moving environment, and all the technology was there, and we were very much in the trenches, kind of helping Lorne with deadlines and stuff like that. So it was a transferable environment into a film of this size, with this much kind of turnaround. And I suppose working together creatively, we're both quite open-minded, and it's incredibly valuable to have a second opinion at
Mm.
2 in the morning and think, what do you think of this? And that little bit of fresh perspective of someone creatively so well is very, very valuable and can save a lot of time. But yeah.
Yeah. And so you guys had, it sounds like might have been a quick turnaround in terms of the score for this film.
Well, we
I
had
would.
a long time to do it, but as I was saying, McHugh and Tom, they're very open and honest on their interviews, and it is fascinating when you listen to how much they talk about all the films they've done. They shoot so much.
Hmm.
There are the lengths of the scenes in their primitive form are very long. The film is very long. They really shave off things, more and more effectively until you have the finished product. But until then, you kind of have to score every version of the film in that process. So yeah, even though they gave us a lot of time, a lot of space, a lot of time to explore things, which we really valued, we were still kind of dog chasing its tail, just trying to keep up with the flavor of the day and what was going on in kind of McHugh and Eddie's process with the edit. So yeah,
Yeah. The franchise now is 30, almost 30 years old, and the theme is one of the most recognizable themes in the world. Do you remember hearing that when you were younger? Like, what was that feeling like? And then how did it feel to have to reinvent it and be now a part of this massive legacy?
I think with the theme, like most people, you probably don't remember not having known the theme. It's that iconic.
yeah,
And while working on the film, there were multiple times where I'd be watching a TV show, even the show Somebody Feed Phil, and they mention Tom Cruise multiple times in one season, and it felt like, wow, this is really, you can't escape it.
Mm.
So it's just a part of culture, basically. Um, and yeah, and booking the job and then realizing, oh, wait a minute, we're the people now who have to do this.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
oh,
Gulp.
okay, yeah, gulp. All right, we got to do it.
Yeah. Mission Impossible 3 was when when you're a kid and you watch a film over and over again. Mission Impossible 3 was that for me.
Mm.
So it was ingrained into my head at an early age. And we as composers often do, we think about it quite academically. Okay, we could take this and that, and sometimes you can think too academically about this thing. And towards the kind of second half of the process, I would say we would often get McHugh saying, "Just give me Mission Impossible. Just give me, unadulterated Mission Impossible," because, as you say, it's so in the psychology of filmgoers. So it is just an effective, it's the sharpest tool in your toolkit, really. You know,
One of the main changes that I noticed that you guys made was the Latin percussion. You guys switched to like a more marching snare kind of feeling. Can you talk a little bit about that specific change or why you decided to go that route?
Well, something that you're going to hear in this score is our use of Burundi drumming,
Mm.
which is because part of the film does take place in South Africa. So something we wanted to tap on was that resource and for the location. And given that this is an adventure movie, there's a few other colors that you're going to hear, and I'm glad you picked up on that in the theme because really I think we feel that the theme that's been released, the main titles is really the tip of the iceberg, and there's so much variety in this score. And as the team goes to all these different locations, what that was one of the things McHugh really wanted was that all these different places should have a different sound.
Mm.
And finding these and workshopping these and weaving them in tastefully and artfully, it took so long.
yeah.
Yeah. And then you guys made a space base. What is that? And
We didn't make it.
oh, okay,
We'd be
okay.
very pleased with ourselves if we did.
So what is the space base? What role does it play in the film? Can you talk a little, because it sounds a little crazy to a non-musical
Yeah.
person.
It, what it the best way to know what it is to look it up and look at it. I can describe it. I mean, it's a kind of scrap metal manufactured into something, I suppose, that looks a bit like a huge metallic marimba
Hmm.
with pods coming out and screws coming out and springs and very kind of modern art looking. And yeah, it was made, Max, remind me of the name of the composer.
The name of the lady who made it, her name is Constance Demby,
Yeah, yeah, that's it. Yeah.
and she passed away a few years ago, but she made this fantastic instrument that vibrates and in this completely fresh sonic world you've never heard before, and it was the
Yeah.
perfect way to personify this submarine, which
Mm.
needed to have its whole own. When you see the movie, it could be a movie climax within itself, and the score for this whole sequence, McHugh wanted it to be special, and boy did he get that. We hope.
Yeah. We tried and failed. We go, oh no, no, we've got all these tricks and sounds, and look, we can, we tried our best to kind of, not to replace it, but just say, listen, we got this as well. And he was very clear, the space base has a depth and a
Mm.
realness that we cannot create. We need the space base. So we went on a kind of hunt to get those sounds and to incorporate them in the score. And yeah, it gives an atmosphere that is so unique to that whole section of the movie. Yeah, it's brilliant.
So it sounds
And
like, I
then
mean,
what we,
oh,
oh, sorry,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, 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 go ahead.
I was going to say, and what we had to do as we used the space base and got further into the sequence, there did need to be variation. So then we
Yeah,
got to work with this very special instrumentalist named Louis Perez, and he recorded some fantastic sounds that we were weaving into our suites as he got further and further into his journey into the
yeah,
submarine. And the best part was that these sounds started to talk to each other.
yeah,
And not only that, is that the sound design team, we were working hand in hand with them, not in the same room, but
Mm.
once we realized what each other were doing, there was this fantastic synergy that started to occur, especially with our music editors, Cecile and Timmery, because the sequence was so complicated and so long that it became this really great team effort to create this unique world.
Yeah, I mean, Louis actually had percussion, objects in water and was hitting with that. So it went quite deep. And I think when they started mixing the sequence together, McHugh would go, "What is that? No, that," and pick out Louis' sound and be like, "Let's get more of that." So it clearly had a connection, off the bat.
That's fascinating. And I mean, all Mission Impossible movies, it's like a series of, like you were saying, climactic moments that have to continue to outdo themselves. And your
Yes.
score also has to do that. So, what did that look like in terms of you guys creating that final climactic moment musically?
It was just, it was so difficult. There was no other way other than just to continue writing and keep practicing. And how do we make this even more emotional, more intense? And there's no other answer other than just hard work again and again. And when McHugh would give feedback, you have to process it and think, God, what am I doing wrong here? Or it's not what am I doing wrong? It's more, how could it be even more impactful for the audience? So you just, as a composer, you think, okay, well, harmonically, how could I be more intense? What can I do melodically to make it more expressive? Rhythmically, am I blocked somehow? And you just look at what you're doing and again and again and again try and make it better.
And it's incredible. And because I'm a nerd and I listen to a lot of podcasts with Eddie and talking about, and they had this problem on Top Gun. You can have the most incredible shot action, but if it's too long or if it doesn't have the pace or the chapters or the trajectory, giving that audience the kind of stress they need to really follow an action sequence, we have our own version of that problem. And the music is obviously so tied to the edit in these situations. So sometimes a scene, if it's too long, isn't ready for a huge driving score yet, but then it might be ready for that, towards the end of the process. So it can be quite cruel because you don't actually know what the intensity of a cue will be for a long time. So yeah, but that kind of, it creates an environment where you just keep trying stuff.
Yeah. And then with the release in the next 2 weeks for the wide public, what are you most proud of? Because it does sound like you guys have put in so many hours and so many different iterations of this score. What is a small section, no spoilers or anything like that, that you guys are just absolutely thrilled for people to hear?
No
I
spoil.
would say, I mean, my answer, it has to be, the biplane stuff and
Yeah.
how that developed and just how difficult that was to get it and to, as Alfie was saying, you don't know sometimes how that it's going to shake down until maybe they trim one bit and then that unlocks the piece of music that something that didn't work for 3 minutes now could work. And then that answers the question of what happens after, and then how does it resolve? So having that come together at the very end of the process, and that was just really thrilling and so satisfying because it was just so difficult.
Yeah. And we all have our own version of your answer, and I think working on these scenes, sometimes one of these scenes feels like scoring a movie in itself. The journey this scene has gone on, and the frustration and the highs and lows you've gone just to get it perfect. 10 out of 10 instead of 9 out of 10. Yeah, so there's a few emotional moments in the film I'm very very proud of, and there's some very fun fight scenes. It isn't a spoiler to say there'll be a fight scene in Mission Possible. Proud of.
Well, thank you so much, guys, and have fun on your global journey. Max, are you going to Cannes and all the premieres as well?
Yes, yeah, Alfie and I are
Yes,
going to Cannes and New
in
York.
our Sunday best.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah. Well, congratulations, and I cannot wait to hear the rest of the score. I only got to hear they kept it under lock and key. I only got to hear the main theme, so I cannot wait to
Right.
hear the rest of it.
Oh, thanks, Tina.
It's
It was nice to talk to you.
yeah, That's the tip of the iceberg. I think we think you'll really
Oh
like it
yeah.
even more. What else you got to come?